Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Today on the program, One ID for All.
Na maraming itatago, isa na lang ang dadalahin.
Critics fear a national ID system will violate the right to privacy.
National ID system is by definition a tool for surveillance and control of the citizenry.
But Malacanang believes the new law can withstand legal scrutiny.
There is therefore no basis at all for the apprehension about the full ID unless, of course, that fear is based on anything that borders to illegal.
Also, a House minority leader is named, but the minority isn't pleased.
This representation would like to put on record our continuing objection to the recognition of Congressman Danilo Suarez, the minority leader, for simply being illegal.
And after a controversial federalism video, will it be zero budget for presidential communications? House Committee on Appropriations and Davao City Representative Karlo Nograles joins us live. And later, will you book an Uber horse? That's for today's InFocus. Thank you for joining us. Sitting in for Pinky Web, I'm Ruth Cabal. President Rodrigo Duterte dismisses fears on the newly signed Philippine System Identification Act, or better known as the National ID System Law. Mr. Duterte assures the public that data will be protected and will make government transactions easier and more simple. Some groups express fear on the National ID system because it may violate the person's right to privacy and could harass any citizen. Also, will the Presidential Communications Group get a budget slash after a controversial video? And is the PDP-Laban still intact after a House shakeup? Let's go straight to the source of the story. Davao City 1st District Representative and one of the principal sponsors of the Philippine System Identification Act, Karlo Nograles. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Ruth.
Congressman, finally, after several administrations, after several decades, President Duterte has signed the Philippine System Identification Act. Tell us more about this, sir. You're one of the authors.
Yes, well, like you said, it went through several administrations, but it took President Duterte's political will to have this approved, and we're very happy that finally we have this Philippine identification system in place for all Filipinos. Ang pinakamalaking advantage na nakikita ko para dito talaga is that, number one, we're gonna give it out for free. So karamihan ng ating mga kababayan, lalo-lalo na yung mga mahirap nating mga kababayan, yung mga nasa probinsya, sa rural areas, wala silang sariling ID card. And it's very difficult for them having no identification card, official ID, to transact with government, to get help from government, for government to reach out to them, for government to provide subsidies or help or social services. Mahirap. Imagine if there's a disaster, if there's a fire, if there's an earthquake or a calamity that comes in the area, we're still in that system na namimigay tayo ng mga plastic cards or paper cards even. And that's how the local government units do it. That's how national government units, national government agencies do it. They just give out these cards without actually, and then there's this whole process of verifying if they're actually poor. How do you verify if they're actually poor or in need? So it's a very magulong sistema para sa atin. But with the national ID in place, we hope to be able to systematize everything from social services to government services to providing the needs for our people, to systematizing everything, and to even management of resources of government. So there's so many advantages that we see, and those against it, when they talk about right to privacy or the violation to the right to privacy, or even using the information or data for whatever illegal activities or what have you, I think it's protected under the law. We provided the penal provisions to ensure that it discourages anyone, most especially government officials, from tampering, using, or abusing any data or information that is put in the system.
And President Duterte, when he signed the law, also addressed yung mga criticism against it. So let's listen to what the President had to say.
The House of Representatives, the bill was
At all for the apprehension about the Phil ID, unless, of course, that fear is based on anything that borders to illegal. If at all, the Phil ID will even aid in a drive against the social menaces over poverty, corruption, and criminal issues, as well as terrorism and violent extremism.
Okay, so sir, let's talk about more on yung sinasabi ni President Duterte against terrorism or security threats. So how will this help?
It will help because obviously if we have everybody in the system already, then it would be easy for us to do for verifying criminal records of persons. For immigration purposes, alam mo, ang laging sinasabi ng Bureau of Immigration natin, it's very hard for them to really track and identify who the illegal aliens are residing in this country. What they suggested was a full-blown alien registration procedure, but that will entail a lot of costs. So when this national ID system was being discussed, and now that it's a law, the Bureau of Immigration officials are very happy because once we go full blast with the national ID system, it will register all Filipino residents and all resident aliens. So therefore, we are able to identify those who do not have the IDs, then are probably illegal aliens or suspected illegal aliens. So they will have to. It will be very easy now for Bureau of Immigration to separate,
ihiwalay na sila
at to do the verification process.
Let's go to the details lang nung how will the new ID look like. Meron tayong sample ID dyan. Ano yung mga ilalamanin ng ID? We have, of course, yung common na Philippine Identification System number.
That's
I mean,
unique.
as original, there's the sample.
Yeah.
A very original. Ako, familiar ako dyan yung ginagamit sa states, di ba? They have just one social security number. So ano po yung features, Congressman?
So very basic. You have, like you said, the unique number, no, the PSN number. That's unique until your death. That will be the number that you will have permanently. Then basically just your full name, your gender, your birth date, your place of birth, your blood type, marital status, and your complete address. And within or integrated into that ID system are your fingerprints, your biometric data, which is fingerprints, my iris scan pa yan.
Oh, okay.
And
blood type. Ayan.
yeah, your
Ito,
blood
sir.
type's there.
Yeah,
Then
you
your
have it
full
there.
set of fingerprints, and of course the photograph is there.
Okay.
Then optional, you want to put you want to be displayed your marital status, your mobile number, and email address are optional features of the ID if you want it displayed in the ID card.
And then it's for free, no? Yung
It's for
sinasabi
free.
niyo walang cost
Yeah, walang cost. In fact, we've already allocated the budget of 2 billion pesos for 2018 because we were anticipating the passage of this law. And the pilot areas would be Metro Manila and meaning to say NCR
Yes.
and Region 4A as the pilot areas for 2018. In 2019, the 2019 budget, we placed an amount of 2 billion pesos again, but PSA is asking if we can raise that to about 6 billion pesos.
Kasi mas marami ng areas.
Yeah, so 2 billion for 2018 and 2019, it's another 2 billion, but they're asking us to raise it to 6 billion.
Pag nawala mo yung ID yun, may bayad na yun,
Yes,
syempre.
pag magpa-renew ka kasi nawala mo, may bayad na yun.
Okay, pero yung mangyayari dito sa mga ID, for the first time na ipatupad na po siya, diba? When it becomes a law, when we've published it, anong unang-unang gagawin? Yung registry na ba?
Registration. So the registration will be done in all PSA offices nationwide. And then, of course, they will coordinate with the other offices as well, GSIS, SSS, Pag-ibig, PhilHealth, and even COMELEC offices will be open to accommodate registration. And even registration, and I think even then and there, baka yung distribution na rin ng ID.
Makukuha na rin agad. Maganda
Hopefully,
yun.
we'll see what the system is. Kasi syempre, ibibidding mo pa yan. It will have to go through the process of bidding to a contractor.
You
then
have a
contractor.
sample, Congressman. Pakita natin kasi
No,
it has
this one-
your picture.
no, this is a
Yan.
sample
So,
with
ganyan
my
ang magiging
picture, just
itsura pag
ano lang.
nagpagawa na sila. Ayan, may picture na ni Congressman.
So that's just, but what I want to show is a UMID.
Okay, that's the
So this is
existing ID you have
our
now.
ID. This is our government ID. As government officials and employees, we have a UMID. And if you look at the UMID, so basically it's the same system, no? If you look at the UMID ID, it has our name. It even has a microchip already.
Right.
Right. And then at the back, you will see that, I don't want to advertise the bank, but there's a bank.
So parang ganyan
So
yung
it's a debit card. It also acts as a debit card for us government employees. So it's the same system. It's the same ID that we use for our transactions in GSIS and PhilHealth, basically. So yun, it acts as a debit card. It has a microchip. It has our basic data, and we have a unique number also here.
So yung PhilID, yung magiging bagong ID, parang ganyan din? Pwede ring debit card? Or will it have that feature?
In fact, once we have the system in place, you could level it up as much as you can. It could act as a debit card. It could help in why do we need a system like this? Kasi sa mga social benefits, think of it this way. We have 4 Ps. We have yung subsidies that we give for yung sa train, especially.
Right.
With the passage of the train, we're giving out subsidies, di ba? And then all of these benefits that we're giving, social subsidies that we're giving to different constituents, no? So it can be integrated into the system na yung pagbibigay natin ng subsidies will be through a debit system.
Okay, ipapasok na lang yung
Ipapasok
pera.
na lang. Because some countries do that. So once you have that ID, and it like this one, if it acts as a debit system, then pwedeng dito na ipasok. I mean, that's
So what's-
advanced na yan. Advanced na yan.
So what's gonna happen to the previous if you have a PhilHealth, if you have an SSS, so wala na rin yun?
So basically, you don't need to carry so many IDs anymore. So all government transactions mo, isang ID na lang. So if I go to GSIS to claim something or to transact something in GSIS, all I need to bring is this one.
Hindi na siya valid, ma-invalidate na yun if ever meron ka ng ganyan.
Well, it will be redundant na. So you
yeah.
don't need to bring it anymore. Diba? Kasi ang dami natin ginagastos for ID. But if
Yes,
we have just one ID for all of our government transactions, then it would be much
Naalala ko
more
nga,
convenient.
yung isang comment nung ating mga sa social media, ninipis na daw yung wallet nila kasi
Yeah.
isa na lang daw ang dadalhin
Oo.
nilang ID.
Kasi
Oo.
makapal lang daw ang wallet dahil sa dami ng ID, pero wala namang pera.
Oo.
So ngayon, ninipis na ang wallet, wala nang ID, isang ID na wala pang pera.
Sir,
but
okay.
in the future, that's where we want to take it, no? Eventually. Like I said, we could do the system in such a way na even yung mga government subsidies that we give will already be integrated into like a debit card.
Okay, so briefly lang, let's go talk about some of the issues brought about by some of the critics. Constitutionality, but Secretary Roque was saying it can withstand yung questions about constitutionality.
Yeah, constitutionality, we all have ID cards. I mean, whether voters ID, we have a voter's ID, we have a GSIS card, we have an SSS card, we have PhilHealth card, we have ID cards when we go to school, when we work. So I don't see what the problem with constitutionality of passing. And by the way, we are just one among 9 countries, used to be one among 9 countries without an ID, universal ID. Now, that 9 has now become 8 because the Philippines has now adopted a universal ID.
Okay. Kasi dati, sir, di ba merong ruling ang Supreme Court nung panahon ni former President Ramos na saying na yung AO, Administrative Order 308 niya for a national ID system was declared unconstitutional. Ano bang difference from that time to what the ID that we have now?
I'm not too familiar with the decision of the Supreme Court on why it was declared unconstitutional, but we stand firm that this would stand the test of constitutionality. There's nothing unconstitutional with this, especially na very protected ang right to privacy mo because the penal provisions are quite heavy. No? Anybody who uses this, who abuses the ID, or abuses whatever information is in the ID. For government officials, you can be in prison to as long as 15 years, in fact. So that's, and for private individuals, as long as 10 years. And any government official who abuses the system may absolute perpetual disqualification from holding public office. So the penalties are very stringent and very heavy. It would make no sense for anybody to risk tampering or abusing the system or even hacking into the system.
Yun na nga, nabanggit nyo na, but you're also saying na it will be secure, especially with the Data Privacy Act, yung
Yes.
concerns on privacy. How will that work?
Yeah, you can get penalized under the Data Privacy Act and even under this act. So simultaneously, 2 cases may be filed against you. So we just have to make sure that number one, your privacy is protected. You cannot the data in the PhilSys system cannot be used unless you have a court order and unless you consent. And yung court order can only be given if public health or interest dictate and
Safe.
public health and safety dictate, and upon the finding of the court order, and then dapat within 72 hours you are informed.
So ibig sabihin very particular dun sa mga provisions na yan. We'll talk more about that, plus yung concerns ng iba about yung record history daw. We'll talk more about that, Congressman. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Still to come, can the House of Representatives convince senators to be part of a Constituent Assembly or CONAS? Congressman Karlo Nograles will still be with us after the break. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Davao City 1st District Representative Karlo Nograles. Congressman, I was asking you about yung concern. Itong Foundation for Media Alternatives, isang concern nila yung maintaining daw a record history for surveillance. And ano ba itong record history? It's in the law.
No, I didn't see it in the
okay.
law.
Okay. That's what they're saying.
Perhaps what they're concerned about is that every time you probably use the ID, then maybe they'll know your record history, but that's normal. Like for instance, my transactions in GSIS obviously has a record.
Yes.
Whether or not I use the GSIS ID or this ID, then it has a record.
Parang sa bangko, di ba? You have the ano.
Whenever I use my PhilHealth, they will also have a record. Siguro ang nakikita rin natin, eventually what this will transition into is, for example, a constituent has a national ID. He goes to the public hospital, and then sa public hospital, of course, sasaluin siya ng PhilHealth. So siguro integrated na yung
lahat ng
maging records niya.
Okay.
So perhaps their fear is that when you can use the ID in a manner that all of your transactions with government might be captured in a database. But obviously, that's already being done.
Public
like every time
na siya.
I use my PhilHealth card, no? Every time, kasi meron tayong libreng PhilHealth na pinamimigay no, sa ating mga constituents. So that's a point of service system. Whenever a poor person na walang PhilHealth number goes into the hospital, pwede siyang bigyan ng libreng PhilHealth. And then that gets entered into the database system. So, that's already being done.
Okay. Congressman, timeline na lang. Kailan natin unang makikita ang PhilID?
Well, pinupukpok namin ang PSA. They're set already to do I think August 15, they will sit down already to finalize the implementing rules and regulations. And once that's in place, then hopefully they'll get it passed immediately, then roll out na.
Okay.
But pinupukpok namin, the reason why sinasabi kong pinupukpok namin is because we placed 2 billion pesos in 2018 for this.
Yes.
So
Dapat magastos
dapat
yun.
magastos na siya, dapat ma-roll out na natin at ma-fully utilize natin ang pondong yan.
So end of the year makikita natin
NCR
ang unang ID.
and Region 4A will be the pilot areas. So congratulations.
Before the end of the year.
Yes, before the end of the year.
Okay. Congressman, briefly lang dun sa ibang topic. Si Congressman Tom Villarin is saying na dahil dun sa mga controversial federalism video ng Philippine Presidential Communications Operations Office, wag na daw bigyan ng budget. You're the chairman of the House Appropriations
So
Committee.
let's wait until the budget briefing of PCOO. I think that's next week na yata ang PCOO.
Meron silang for this year, they have almost 1.4 billion. Sa Senate kasi, binanggit na doon na they're asking actually for an increase from 1.4 billion to 1.5 billion
That's
pesos.
normal. Every year naman, each and every department would always come to Congress asking for a bigger budget. So that's normal. So obviously, let's listen to what PCOO has to say about this. Ayokong pangunahan kasi meron naman silang pagkakataon na depensa ng kanilang budget.
But I
And,
just want to know what you think of the video.
I think it was already disowned, hindi ba? Various sectors have already disowned the video. PDP-Laban has disowned that video.
No,
PCOO has
the
disowned
video
it.
of Mocha Uson.
Yeah, I know.
Yes,
I'm saying that it looks like everybody's saying it's not an official video.
Yeah.
So therefore, it will just mukhang nahulog ng private video na lang siya and private advocacy and mahulog na lang yan siya sa right to freedom of expression.
Okay, Sir, PDP-Laban, medyo because of the House shake-up and then there were several meetings of apparently different factions of PDP-Laban. Anong status ng leadership?
Well, we had the meeting just recently and this was a meeting of all the most PDP-Laban members, and the PDP-Laban officials have declared that what one group or one supposed faction of PDP-Laban did na nag-elect sila ng ibang mga officials is not sanctioned by PDP-Laban. Of course, we are saying that it's a rogue, they're saying it's a rogue group and a rogue a separate group that's not officially sanctioned by PDP-Laban. So therefore, that election was a farce. And we continue to still recognize the president of PDP-Laban as Senator Coco Pimentel, the chairman as President Rodrigo Duterte, and the Secretary General for now is still Pantaleon Alvarez.
Will you be meeting with the president anytime soon?
There was supposed to be, unless a meeting has already been conducted between officials of PDP-Laban, higher officials at the very least. But I know that it's being scheduled.
So wala pang schedule for now?
I don't know kung wala pang nag-report sa amin na nagkaroon na ng meeting with the president.
Okay. Pero if ever, yung isa pang napapabalita, kayo daw ay may plano atang mag-jump ship into the party of Mayor Sara Duterte, the regional party.
Wala namang pinag-uusapan whether or not PDP-Laban will join forces with hugpong ng pagbabago or things like that. Obviously, PDP-Laban is open to alliances with other local or regional parties. So that's probably going to be a possibility. Jumping ship is not being talked about.
So yung possible alliance.
Yes.
Kasi sa province, usually common naman yung mga ganun,
Kasi regional party kasi ang hugpong ng pagbabago. Hindi pa naman, I don't know if they're moving towards being accredited as a national party. I don't know the movement there. But right now, they're regional. So PDP-Laban may enter into a coalition.
But how is PDP-Laban as a party now? Do you think yun na nga yung with former President Gloria Arroyo leading the House and then Alvarez there?
Well, Speaker Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo is a member of PDP-Laban. So whatever shiftings in the leadership of the House of Representatives still reflect that PDP-Laban is still the major party in the House of Representatives. So the shifting was just between personalities, but PDP-Laban is still the ruling party.
And would you say that it remains strong as a the
it
ruling
remains strong
party?
because when we had that meeting just recently, we were it was a full pack meeting. Everyone was in attendance, and then I think all the concerns are being addressed. There's just this minor detail about a rogue element of PDP-Laban claiming to be the real PDP-Laban. But I think the officials of PDP-Laban, the organization is in fact imposing sanctions already.
Okay.
It will be investigated, and I heard that sanctions will be imposed against those that did that.
That meeting, in Quezon City,
yes,
that was that meeting.
meeting.
Briefly, sir, yesterday, there was a resolution na file na ba from the camp of Speaker Arroyo that endorses yung CONAS voting, medyo issue to di ba? Voting with the Senate or Congress, voting separately. What's your take on that?
No, that's the correct way to do it. Just to clarify everything, obviously the House is under new leadership, and under the previous leadership, certain statements were made regarding yung stand ng House or ng personal stand niya about how we will tackle the Constituent Assembly and the interpretation of how the Constituent Assembly will operate. So now, under the new leadership of Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, she has categorically stated that number one, CONAS has to be between the two chambers of
Yes.
Congress. And number two, we're not pushing for no election.
Okay. Pero yung stand ba sa voting separately or voting jointly, ano ka doon?
Well, right now, pinag-uusapan pa. Obviously, there are two schools of thought. Kung separately ba or jointly. But I think we're moving towards more na separately.
Separately, oo. Pero tingin nyo that will convince the senators to join CONAS?
Hopefully.
To be part of CONAS?
Hopefully, because by addressing all of these issues of the Senate, then there should be no reason for them not to join us in a Constituent Assembly.
Okay, so tingin nyo this will resolve the ano? But,
Hopefully it will.
But yung senators have some concerns though of former president now being a prime minister
but
under
let's
the
not
new
go,
government.
Well, first of all, I don't think they should go that way because let's not put it towards, parang ang nangyayari kasi, they're
Iba ng issue.
pointing, iba ng issue. They're looking at personalities na eh. No, whether or not that's true or whatever, just set it aside. Let's talk about the institutions na lang instead of looking at personalities, and even those accusations are actually very irresponsible accusations as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Congressman Karlo Nograles. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Coming up, from Uber cars pool and now Uber horse. That's for today's InFocus. Time now for today's InFocus here on The Source. An Amish man in the U.S. state of Michigan is putting a new spin on ride-sharing. Timothy Hochstadler calls it Amish Uber. Here he gives customers a lift with his horse and buggy. And for just $5, they get more than a ride. They can get an experience. And riders like Steve Phelps seem to enjoy it.
First time Uber and we're riding in a buggy.
Horses and ride-sharing apps are not new. 2 years ago, Grab Philippines offered a horse ride service in Baguio City to celebrate the Panagbenga Festival. Thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Ruth Cabal. You're watching CNN Philippines.